Car is upside down, and the first thing I understand is that the rain is louder than we are. It drums against the undercarriage, now above my face, a metallic roar that feels deliberate, like something trying to get in. I'm hanging by the seatbelt, blood rushing into my skull, the world reduced to the smell of gasoline and wet dirt. For a second, I think this is a dream. Then the engine ticks slow, metallic clicks as it cools, and someone makes a sound that doesn't belong to any dream I've ever had. It's a thin, animal whimper. I blink, and the interior of the SUV sharpens into focus. The ceiling is crushed against the muddy ditch. The windshield is a shattered web, leaking rain in thin threads that snake down and drip onto the dashboard. My hair hangs in my face, brushing the roof liner. My phone is somewhere. My mouth tastes like copper and cheap tequila. We were laughing 10 minutes ago. No, 7 minutes ago. I know that because I checked the time before everything folded in on itself. The storm alert had flashed on my phone at 11:12 a.m. p.m. I'd held it up between the seats and said, "Geez, maybe we should slow down." The windshield wipers were already fighting a losing battle. "We're fine," Dylan said from the driver's seat, grinning in the rearview mirror. His pupils were wide and unfocused, that bright, reckless shine I'd loved about him for 3 years. "It's spring break, not a funeral." From the back seat beside me, Maya snorted. "Don't manifest that." The tires hit standing water. The world tilted. Now the world is permanently tilted. My shoulder burns. My left hand is numb. I turn my head carefully and see Evan suspended beside me, his glasses gone, his face slack. There's blood running from his hairline down into his eyebrow, collecting at the tip before dripping upward. No, downward onto the roof. "Evan," I say, but it comes out slurred. He groans. The rain intensifies, as if encouraged. "Everybody okay?" That's Dylan. His voice sounds wrong, compressed, like he's speaking through cotton. I twist toward him. He's hanging too, seatbelt digging into his chest, one hand braced against what used to be the driver's side window. The airbag has deployed, but deflated, sagging like a torn lung. In the third row, there's silence. "Kayla." I call too loud. The name ricochets inside the metal shell. A pause, then a sharp inhale. "I'm here," she says faintly. I think my leg's stuck. The smell grows stronger. Gasoline. It coats the back of my throat. "We need to get out," I say automatically. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if opening a door will flood us with water, or mud, or something worse. I can't tell how deep the ditch is. All I can see through the shattered glass is black sky, and the occasional white lash of lightning. Dylan coughs. "I can't. My door won't move." "Turn the engine off," Evan mutters, his voice thick. It's off. The ticking continues. For a moment, we just hang there, breathing each other's fear. Rain patters through the cracks. Somewhere nearby, thunder rolls across flat land. We were driving back from Gulf Shores, stupid and sunburned and invincible. 5 of us crammed into Dylan's mom's SUV. We'd been arguing about music, about whether to stop for Waffle House, about whether we'd ever tell anyone how much we'd actually had to drink. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a memory in progress. Now my body feels like it belongs to someone else. My scalp throbs. There's something sticky along my temple. I reach up and my fingers slide through blood. "Okay," I say, forcing calm into my voice. "We're going to count to 3 and unbuckle at the same time. Brace yourself so you don't hit your head." "Don't just drop," Maya says. "My neck. I think my neck. We don't have a choice." The smell sharpens again. I imagine one spark, one stray electrical hiss. The SUV blooming into flame while we hang here like meat. 3, Dylan says quietly. 2, 1. I press my palm against the crushed ceiling and release the belt. The fall is short but violent. My shoulder screams as I hit. Evan crashes beside me. Someone yells. The world shifts slightly, settling deeper into mud. For a second, I can't breathe, not because of panic, but because the air feels wrong, thick, contaminated. "Everybody," I say. "I'm good," Evan lies. "My leg," Kayla whispers from the back. "It's pinned," Dylan crawls. No, drags himself toward the rear. The The interior is a maze of broken plastic and sagging seats. Rainwater pools along what used to be the roof. My jeans soak instantly. I fish my phone from my pocket with shaking fingers. The screen is cracked but alive. 11:15 a.m. p.m., 3 minutes. It feels like hours. No signal, I say. Evan swears under his breath. Try 911 anyway, Maya says. I do. The call fails outside. The storm presses close, intimate. We're alone on a 2-lane highway flanked by empty fields. I remember the last mile marker we passed. I remember thinking we should have gotten a hotel. Dylan's voice from the back. Her legs caught under the seat bracket. Kayla is crying now, small and controlled, like she doesn't want to waste energy. I can't feel my foot, she says. That's shock, Evan says quickly. That's just shock. The gasoline smell makes my stomach twist. We need to get out before this thing lights up, I say. Saying it makes it real. Through where? Maya snaps. The windows are. A flash of lightning illuminates the side window. It's cracked but open to mud. Dylan kicks at it. The glass splinters outward, and a gush of cold rainwater surges in, soaking us. Fresh air follows, muddy, metallic, but breathable. Go, he says to Maya. You first. She hesitates. Then crawls, dragging herself up through the jagged opening into the storm. For a second, I see her silhouette against the sky, hair plastered to her face. Then she's gone. Evan follows, grunting as he squeezes through. I stay with Dylan and Kayla. On 3, Dylan tells her. We're going to lift the seat. It hurts, she whispers. I know. We strain. The metal groans but doesn't give. Lightning again. Thunder closer. I think of headlines. I think of parents getting calls. I think of how easily we slid into that water. We need more leverage, I say. My voice is shaking now. Dylan nods toward the jack in the cargo area. Now beneath us somewhere in the dark. Of course, another minute passes, or 10. Time has dissolved into rain and breathing, and that steady ticking from the engine. Finally, with a scream that doesn't sound like it came from her, Kayla's leg slips free. Dylan pushes her toward the broken window. Go, he tells her. She crawls out, leaving a smear of blood behind. He turns to me. His face is pale, rainwater dripping from his hairline. You next. What about you? I'm right behind. I climb. The glass bites into my palms. Cold air slaps my face. When I pull myself onto the muddy embankment, the storm swallows me whole. The SUV rests in the ditch at a sick angle, headlights still glowing weakly beneath water. Steam rises from the hood. Maya stands a few feet away, hugging herself. Evan is on his knees, vomiting into the grass. Kayla is lying on her back, one leg bent wrong at the shin. Dylan emerges last, slipping in the mud. For a moment, we just stare at the car like it might move again. Then the engine gives one final metallic tick and stops. The highway is empty. No headlights in either direction. No houses. Just wind and rain flattening the fields. I check my phone again. 11:19 a.m. p.m. 7 minutes. It feels like we've lived entire lives. We need help, Kayla says faintly. I'll walk, Dylan says immediately. In this? Maya gestures at the storm. We can't just sit here. He's right. But the thought of him leaving feels wrong, like if one of us disappears into the dark, the rest will unravel. Evan wipes his mouth. Stay together, he says. Cars will come. They don't minutes stretch. Rain soaks through everything. My teeth chatter uncontrollably. I can't tell if it's cold or adrenaline. Kayla's breathing gets shallower. Talk to me, I say, kneeling beside her. She stares at the sky. I was supposed to call my mom tonight. You still will. She gives a small, unbelieving smile. Lightning again. Close enough that I feel it in my bones. For a split second, the world turns white. In that flash, the SUV looks less like a car and more like an animal on its back, gutted and helpless. I check the time. 11:29 p.m. 17 minutes. Something shifts inside me then. Not panic exactly, but awareness. A single mistake. 1 foot too heavy on the accelerator. 1 laugh too loud. 1 choice to keep driving. And now everything smells like gasoline and wet earth. In the distance, finally, headlights. We all see them at once. Dylan stands waving both arms. The beams grow brighter, slicing through rain. The vehicle slows. For a second, relief floods me so hard it's almost painful. Then I realize how quiet we've become. The approaching truck idles on the shoulder. A door opens. A man's silhouette steps out. "Y'all okay?" He calls over the storm. His voice carries strangely in the wind. I look back at the SUV in the ditch, steam rising like breath, and I understand, with a clarity that makes my skin prickle, that whatever happens next will divide my life cleanly in two. Before the ditch, and after the man runs toward us, boots splashing in mud. He smells like diesel and damp flannel when he reaches us. "Jesus," he mutters, taking in the scene. "How long y'all been out here?" 30 minutes, Dylan says. I check my phone, 11:59 p.m. 47 minutes. The number lands heavy in my chest. 47 minutes since we flipped. 47 minutes breathing gasoline and rain. 47 minutes suspended between the version of us that got in that car and whatever we are now. The man is calling 911, his voice steady. I kneel beside Kayla and take her hand. It's cold and slick with rain. "I'm here," I tell her. But even as I say it, something inside me feels displaced, like I'm still hanging upside down, waiting for the belt to release. The storm continues overhead, indifferent. And I can't shake the sense that the crash wasn't the worst part. It was the waiting, because in that waiting, I felt something settle into me. Heavy and permanent. A single mistake, and the knowledge that it will never, ever let us go. A trucker flagged us down on I-25 because he said sparks were flying from our tire, and I keep replaying the moment I eased the Subaru onto the shoulder, trying to hear what I missed. The steering wheel was too hot to touch when we first got on the highway that morning. I'd wrapped the bottom half in one of Nora's cloth grocery bags until the air conditioning caught up. Even then, the plastic trim around the radio burned the side of my finger when I reached to lower the volume. "You should have let it cool," Nora said, not looking up from the folder in her lap. "It's fine. It's not fine. That's how the dash cracks." She had a folder for everything, printed directions in case our phones lost signal. At gas stations circled in blue ink, her sister's address written twice, once in full, once abbreviated. A list titled Road Safety in capital letters. She'd slid it into the clear pocket on the front. I glanced at it now. "You packed the emergency ponchos?" "Yes. It's 98 degrees. Flash floods don't care." That was Nora, prepared for rain in a sky so white it looked bleached. The rear passenger tire sensor flickered on just south of truth or consequences. A small amber horseshoe with an exclamation point in the center. It glowed for a few seconds, went dark, then came back. On, off, on, like a pulse. "You see that?" I asked. "I see it. It's been doing it longer than usual. It always does it in heat. It's been on 3 times in a row. It's the sensor," she said. "We had it checked." "I know. You always do this," she said, still staring at her folder. "You get in your head." I tightened my grip on the wheel. The leather stuck to my palm. "I'm not in my head. I'm looking at a light that keeps coming on. It's not low. We checked it 2 months ago." She closed the folder. "So what? You want to pull over every time it blinks?" The light went dark again. I said nothing. The water bottles and the cup holders were warm enough that the plastic gave when I squeezed it. I took a sip anyway. It tasted like the inside of a kiddie pool. The Subaru had been with Nora longer than I had. She'd driven it across 3 states, through snowstorms and dust. It had a faint rattle in the back seat when you hit 75. A small oil stain under the engine we never bothered fixing. It felt sturdy. Predictable. The sensor flickered again. On, off, on. I tapped the dashboard. Stop. Nora laughed once, short. "You think that helps?" "I don't like it. It's a light. It's a warning. It's a sensor glitch." We went quiet after that. The kind of quiet that isn't angry but isn't easy either. The air conditioner hummed. The road unspooled in front of us. In the rearview mirror, I saw the truck silver cab. Long trailer. It wasn't weaving or speeding. It was just there, closing the distance without effort. "He's coming up fast," Nora said. "There's space." The truck stayed behind us instead of passing. A car length back, then a little closer. Its horn blasted once. I felt it in my ribs. What's his problem? Nora muttered. The headlights flashed. Twice, the truck edged left just enough for the driver to lean toward his open window. His arm came out, pointing down toward the road. Then he made a circling motion with his finger. Tire. The sensor light blinked on again at the same time. On, off, on. He's pointing at us, Nora said. I see that. The horn blared again, longer this time. Maybe something's actually wrong, she said. You just said it wasn't. I know what I said. The truck driver leaned further out. His mouth moved. I couldn't hear him over the wind. The amber light stayed on longer this time. 5 seconds. 6. Then it went dark. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll pull over. Nora didn't answer. I eased the Subaru onto the shoulder. Gravel spat against the undercarriage. The steering wheel vibrated in my hands. The truck followed, parking close behind us. Too close. When I looked in the mirror, his grille filled the frame. The engine idled with a low, steady growl. For a moment, neither of us moved. You don't have to get out, Nora said. I'm just checking. We can call roadside. He's already here. She pressed her lips together. Then she reached for the folder and slid it into the side pocket of the door. Fine, she said, quick. The air outside felt thick, not shimmering, not dramatic, just heavy, like someone had thrown a damp blanket over the world. The truck door opened. The man climbed down. He was tall and wide through the shoulders. His shirt clung to his back. Sweat darkened the fabric along his spine. When he reached the ground, he didn't hurry. He didn't smile either. Up close, his face looked unfinished. The skin around his eyes didn't crease when he blinked. His mouth moved, but nothing above it shifted. Light hit his pupils and went nowhere. No spark, no narrowing. Just flat gray-blue discs set into skin that didn't seem to belong to them. Sparks, he said. Back left. Stop now. His voice was low and even no urgency in it, just statement. We didn't see anything, Nora said. You wouldn't. He walked past us and crouched by the rear passenger tire. His movements were smooth in a way that didn't involve strain. No grunt when he bent. No breath pushed out through teeth. He just folded down and touched the tread. See, he said. I stepped closer. There was a faint line along the rubber. Maybe a crack. Maybe dirt. It's just, I started. He stood up. Too fast. My brain didn't catch up to the shift in space. He grabbed Nora by the front of her shirt and slammed her against the side of the Subaru. The metal rang under the impact. What are you doing? I shouted. He didn't answer. His face stayed the same. No snarl. No twist of anger. The skin didn't move. Nora drove her knee up into him. Hard. He barely rocked. He turned and struck me across the side of the head with something metal. The world snapped sideways. Gravel scraped my palms as I fell. I tasted blood. Nora was yelling. Words, my name, his. He moved again. No wasted motion, no flailing. Just steps and angles. The metal flashed once in his hand. I crawled toward them. The heat pressed against my back. My ear rang. He looked at me. Up close, I could see the pores in his skin, the faint stubble along his jaw. But there was no tightening in his eyes, no flare. It was like watching someone perform a task they'd done 100 times. I lunged at him. He shoved me back with one arm. Not hard, just enough. Nora made a sound that didn't fit inside her body. A horn blasted behind us. Another truck. The man's head turned toward the noise. Quick, assessing. He didn't curse, didn't rush. He stepped away from Nora, walked to his cab, and climbed in. The engine roared. The silver rig pulled back onto the highway and was gone in seconds. Another driver, older, gray beard, ball cap, ran toward us. Jesus, ma'am, are you? I crawled to Nora. Her printed directions had spilled out of the door pocket. One page lay under her shoulder. Blue ink smeared where her weight pressed it into gravel. I pressed my hands against her, but I couldn't find where to press that would matter. The older trucker, Hank, was talking, but his voice sounded far away. Ambulance is coming. Stay with me. Stay with me. Nora's eyes were open. They moved, they found me. I tried to say something steady, something useful. Instead, I kept repeating her name. The sensor light on the dashboard blinked on again. On, off. On. even with the engine off. Weeks later, in a room that smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner, Sergeant Philip Reeves showed me a photograph. "This is Boyd Driscoll," he said. The face in the mugshot was the same, skin smooth around the eyes, no lines pulling at the mouth. The camera flash reflected in his pupils, but the light looked swallowed. "He's done this before," Reeves said. "Different states, same approach." "What approach?" "Mechanical issue smoke, dragging bumper, loose lug nuts." "Sparks," I said. He nodded. "Did he seem angry?" Reeves asked. "Number?" "Excited." "Number?" "What did he seem like?" I swallowed. "Like a wall," I said. "Like if I pushed him, my hand would come back dirty and he wouldn't notice." Reeves wrote something down. "After the funeral, people told me to sell the Subaru. I didn't. It sat in the driveway for weeks. Dust gathered along the windshield. The safety checklist Nora had taped to the inside of the glove compartment door stayed there. I opened it once and read the first line. Check tire pressure before long drives. I laughed. It didn't sound like me one evening. I got in and started the engine. The amber light blinked on, off. On I rested my forehead against the steering wheel. "You were right," I whispered. "You were always right." I drove. Every truck behind me felt closer than it was. Every flash of headlights made my hands sweat. I told myself I would never pull over again. Not for horns, not for waving arms, not for anyone pointing at my tires. The sensor blinked in a steady rhythm as I merged onto the highway on, like something counting down, and in the rearview mirror, far back but gaining, a silver truck settled into my lane and stayed there. The first time I realized we were being hunted, it was because the canyon had gone quiet. Not peaceful, not the soft, sun-baked quiet you get in postcards. This was a pressed-down silence, like a hand over a mouth. Patty didn't notice at first. She was leaning forward in the passenger seat of the camper, reading off the directions. Our son Craig had texted that morning. The phone was in her lap, screen brightness all the way up, her glasses sliding down her nose. Exit after the red rock formation shaped like a cathedral, she read. Then follow the old service road for about 12 miles cathedral. I repeated, scanning the horizon. The canyon walls rose in uneven slabs of rust and ochre, sunlight carving shadows into their cracks. We'd left the interstate an hour ago. The asphalt had narrowed to a 2-lane blacktop, then to something rougher, then to this, pale dirt ribbed with tire tracks. It was the long way around, Craig had said. Scenic, quieter. We were on our way to Arizona to see him, to see Ellie, who was turning 5. Patty had wrapped her presents in the back pink paper with silver stars and stacked them carefully on the bed like they were fragile antiques. I don't like how narrow this is, I said. Patty gave me a look. You drove mail trucks through snowstorms for 30 years. You can handle a little dirt. I smiled at that. Habit. But the silence pressed harder. The wind had dropped. Even the cicadas, those relentless desert buzzers, had stopped. I hadn't realized how loud they'd been until they weren't. In the rearview mirror, a white pickup appeared around a bend. It wasn't unusual. We'd passed a few vehicles in the last hour. Ranchers, maybe hunters. Still, I watched it. It stayed a good distance back at first. Then it crept closer. Someone's in a hurry, Patty said mildly, glancing behind us. I eased the camper slightly to the right where the dirt widened. He can pass. The truck didn't pass. It stayed there, close enough now that I could see the driver's face through the windshield, a pale oval under the glare, bald head catching the sun. He didn't honk, didn't gesture. He just stayed. We rounded another curve. The canyon narrowed, walls leaning in as if listening. The pickup moved closer still. Maybe there's a turnout ahead, Patty said. I nodded, though I didn't see one. The road hugged the canyon floor. Scrub brush clung to the edges. No shoulder, no space. The pickup's grill filled more of my mirror. A mile passed like that, then 2. Patty shifted in her seat. It's rude, she said. He could at least. The truck swerved slightly, then straightened. Not to pass. Just a small movement, like testing us. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. We reached a slight widening in the road, a patch where gravel spilled out into a shallow dip. I slowed, signaled out of habit, and pulled to the side as far as I dared. The pickup slowed too. For a second, I thought he'd stop behind us. Instead, he eased forward inch by inch until he was parallel with my window. I turned. The driver looked at me. His eyes were pale, not blue exactly, something washed out. His skin was so light it seemed almost translucent under the sun. He didn't smile, didn't nod. He just looked. Patty lifted her hand in a polite wave. He didn't react. Then he drove ahead. "That was strange," she murmured. We waited a few seconds before pulling back onto the road. The pickup was about 50 yards ahead now, moving slowly, too slowly. "He's doing it on purpose," I said. "Doing what?" "Controlling the pace." Patty frowned. "Maybe he's looking for something." We followed for another mile. The canyon tightened further. The walls loomed higher, blotting out the sky in strips. Then we saw it. The white pickup had stopped. It was parked diagonally across the road, blocking it. My stomach dropped, not sharply, not dramatically. It just sank, heavy and cold. "Maybe he's turning around," Patty said, though her voice had thinned. There was no space to turn around. As we slowed, another vehicle appeared in the rearview mirror, a brown sedan. It rolled up behind us and stopped, close enough that I couldn't see its license plate. The canyon walls pressed inward. "Don't," Patty whispered. I hadn't realized my hand had moved toward the door handle. The driver's door of the white pickup opened. He stepped out. He was taller than I'd thought, broad, shouldered, bald scalp shining. He wore a plain gray t-shirt and jeans. Another door opened on the passenger side. A stocky man in camouflage stepped out, something metal hanging loosely in his hand, a crowbar. From the driver's side of the brown sedan behind us, an older man emerged, holding a rifle casually, like a walking stick. He didn't raise it. He didn't need to. Patty made a small sound in her throat. "Call someone?" "There's no signal," I said, already knowing. The bald man, later I would learn his name, was Wesley Grubb. But in that moment he was just a shape in the heat, walked forward until he was 10 feet from the camper. He didn't speak. None of them did. They just stood there, watching. I rolled down my window halfway. The air smelled like dust and something metallic. "Is there a problem?" I called. No answer. The stocky one shifted his weight. The crowbar tapped lightly against his thigh. "Sir," I tried again, keeping my voice even. "We're just passing through, visiting family." Nothing. The man with the rifle behind us took a few slow steps forward. They were arranged now, one in front, one behind, one off to the side, like they'd rehearsed it. Patty's hand found mine on the steering wheel. Her fingers were cold. "They want the camper," she whispered, maybe. Or maybe they wanted to see what we would do. The silence stretched. A drop of sweat slid down my spine. Then the tall one appeared, from behind the white pickup, long hair hanging around his face, cigarette tucked into the corner of his mouth. He exhaled smoke and let it drift. He stared at Patty. I felt something old and animal stir in my chest. Not courage, not yet. Calculation. The canyon walls were steep, but not vertical. Scrub and loose rock clung to them. If we ran, the stocky one lifted the crowbar slightly, not threatening, just enough. Wesley Grubb tilted his head. He stepped closer to the camper's front and placed his palm flat against the hood. I felt it through the metal. Patty inhaled sharply. "Don't get out," she said. "I'm not." The man with the rifle shifted again, adjusting his grip. They still hadn't said a word. It was that silence that broke something in me. If they'd shouted, demanded money, cursed, we could have negotiated, pleaded, understood the shape of it. But this felt like weather. I put the camper in reverse. The sedan behind us revved instantly, closing the gap until I could hear its engine, idling inches from our bumper. Forward, the pickup blocked us. Patty's nails dug into my wrist. "Don't." The tall one flicked his cigarette onto the dirt. Wesley stepped back half a pace, as if giving me room. And in that small, deliberate gesture, I understood. They wanted to see which way we'd run. Something inside me snapped tight. I slammed the gear into drive and hit the accelerator. The camper lurched forward. Wesley jumped aside smoothly, not hurried, not surprised. We rammed the front corner of the white pickup. The impact wasn't catastrophic. It was a grinding, metal-on-metal scream that jolted my teeth. The camper shuddered, but didn't stop. The pickup shifted just enough, its tires sliding on loose dirt. I kept my foot down. The stocky one stumbled backward. The crowbar fell from his hand. The camper forced through the narrow gap we'd created, scraping paint and bending metal. Behind us, the rifle cracked. A shot split the air. The back window exploded inward in a spray of glass. Patty screamed. I didn't look back. The road ahead twisted sharply around a bend. I took it too fast. The camper fishtailed, tires spitting gravel. Another shot. Something thudded against the rear panel. "They're following," Patty said, voice breaking. I checked the mirror. The brown sedan was already in motion, the white pickup, engine roaring, jerked free of its position. They were coming. The canyon felt smaller now. No sky, just walls and dust. We rounded another curve and I saw it. A narrow dirt spur leading off to the left, barely more than a trail. I didn't hesitate. I swerved onto it. The camper bucked violently as we left the relative smoothness of the main road. Branches scraped against the sides with a sound like fingernails. "Where are you going?" Patty cried. Off the road. The trail climbed sharply, winding between clusters of scrub and stunted trees. The sedan tried to follow but struggled on the incline. The pickup had more clearance. It surged upward behind us. The engine strained. The smell of hot oil filled the cab. We crested a small rise and I saw ahead, trees thicker. A stand of twisted pines clinging to the canyon's edge. If we could get into them. A gunshot rang out again. The side mirror shattered. I veered sharply into the trees. Branches slammed against the windshield. The camper groaned in protest. We drove until the path vanished entirely, and we were forcing our way between trunks. Then the engine coughed. Once, twice, and died. Smoke curled from under the hood. Patty was already unbuckling her seatbelt. "Keys," she said. I grabbed them, opened my door. The air outside felt thin and sharp. Behind us, the pickup's engine roared closer. "Take the bag," I said, pointing to the small backpack. Patty kept near her feet. She grabbed it without asking what was inside. We ran upward, into the trees. The ground was uneven, littered with rocks that shifted underfoot. My lungs burned almost immediately. Behind us, engines stopped. Doors opened. Still no shouting, no commands, just the sound of boots on dirt. Patty stumbled. I caught her arm and pulled. We climbed higher, weaving between trunks, ducking low branches. A smell reached us, gasoline. I glanced back through the trees. Smoke was rising from the camper, dark and thick. "They're burning it," Patty whispered. I stopped for half a second, staring. Our clothes, Ellie's presents, the photographs taped near the sink. All of it gone. "Don't look," I said, though I was looking too. The flames grew, licking upward, bright against the darkening sky. The men moved around it like shadows. One of them looked up. Even at that distance, I felt his eyes find me. We ran deeper into the woods. The trees thickened, the ground leveling slightly. My heart pounded, not in panic, but in a strange, rhythmic clarity. Every sound seemed amplified. The crunch of gravel under our shoes, the rasp of Patty's breath. "They'll follow," she said. "Yes." "Why?" I didn't answer, because it wasn't about the camper. It wasn't about money. It was about the chase. The woods swallowed us slowly. The canyon road and the burning vehicle disappeared behind a screen of trunks and smoke. We slowed only when our legs refused to go faster. "Down," I said, guiding Patty behind a cluster of fallen logs. We crouched. The air smelled of pine sap and distant fire for a moment. There was nothing. No footsteps, no voices, just wind, finally stirring the branches above. Patty's hand found mine again. "They didn't say anything," she murmured. "I know. That's worse." I listened, and somewhere below us, faint but unmistakable, came the sound of something moving deliberately through the brush, not crashing, not rushing. Just moving, patient, as if they had all the time in the world. We picked up Greg because his truck had broken down, and my husband knew before we even touched the brakes that it hadn't. Nate didn't say it out loud. That's the part that still bothers me. We were rolling south, on I-5, pine trees blurring into long green smears, when we saw the pickup angled on the shoulder. Hood up, hazard lights blinking in a slow, patient rhythm. Nate leaned forward slightly, the way he does when he's diagnosing a sound in a wall. "Alternator doesn't fail that clean," he muttered. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. The truck's headlights were off, but the hazards were strong and steady. Not dim, not flickering. Clean voltage. "The belt's still spinning," he said quietly, almost to himself. If it was the alternator, that battery wouldn't be pushing hazards like that. I looked at him. The man beside the truck raised a hand, not waving wildly. Just enough. "You think he's faking?" I asked. Nate's jaw shifted. I saw the calculation happen behind his eyes. He's an electrician. He thinks in circuits and load paths and failure points. He understands what breaks and how. "Could be something else," he said finally. "Fuel pump. Overheating." But he didn't sound convinced. The truck's hood wasn't smoking. No steam. No sag in the frame. Just a staged helplessness under a blue California sky. "Carla," he said gently. "We can at least ask." I nodded. That's how it always starts. Not with danger, with reasonableness. We eased onto the shoulder. The man walked toward us with an easy gait. Baseball cap low, gray t-shirt damp at the collar. Mid-40s, strong forearms. Calm eyes. "Hey," he said. "Sorry to bother you. Alternator just died on me. I'm trying to get to Stockton, my daughter's birthday." His smile showed teeth. Nate glanced once at the truck. The engine fan was still spinning lazily. No ticking heat. No smell of coolant. The hazards continued blinking at full brightness. "Stockton," Nate said. "We're headed that way." "That'd be a miracle," the man replied. "I've been out here almost an hour. There were no other cars pulled over. No tools laid out. No attempt at repair. Just waiting. My name's Greg," he added. I introduced myself. Told him Nate was an electrician. I don't know why I volunteered that. Maybe I wanted Greg to know we weren't naive. Or maybe I wanted Nate to feel strong. Greg retrieved a black gym bag from the passenger seat of his truck. When he lifted it, I heard something shift inside. Not a loose rattle. A dense metallic slide. He closed the truck door without lowering the hood. That's when Nate hesitated. Just for a second. His hand hovered over the gear shift. He saw it too, but he smiled. "Hop in." The back door opened. The SUV dipped. The smell followed him in. Not sweat, not gasoline. Iron and ozone. It brushed against the back of my throat, like a hospital corridor, after trauma bay doors swing open, like cauterized tissue and copper coins. I swallowed hard. "Sorry," Greg said lightly. "Been on the road." "That's fine," I replied. The zipper of the gym bag sat half an inch open. His hands rested on it protectively. We merged back onto the highway. For the first few miles, everything felt almost normal. Greg talked about his daughter, 8 years old, loves horses, lives with her mom in Stockton. He kept his tone even conversational. Nate asked him what kind of work he did. "Construction," Greg said. "What trade?" Nate asked. A pause. "General stuff." Nate nodded. But I saw the way his thumb tapped once against the steering wheel. He knew trades. General stuff wasn't an answer. The smell thickened as the sun warmed the interior. Iron and ozone. Old blood. I knew it instantly. I've worked trauma shifts. I've stood over gurneys while paramedics cut away denim soaked dark. There's a sweetness to aged blood, metallic but stale. When it dries into fabric, it releases that sharp tang when rewarmed. The gym bag shifted again. Metal touched metal inside. I told myself it could be tools. It had to be tools. "You okay?" Nate asked quietly. "Yay," I said. Nurse Carla recognized the smell. Polite Carla folded her hands in her lap. Greg leaned forward slightly. "You guys ever take 99 instead of 5? Quicker this time of day." "We usually stick to 5, Nate said. "Trust me," Greg replied. "I make this drive a lot." The suggestion wasn't aggressive, it was casual, but it was a change in trajectory. "We're good," I said. Greg leaned back. The zipper opened another fraction of an inch. A darker stain marked the canvas near the seam. Not wet, just deeper in color than the surrounding fabric. My jaw tightened. I realized I'd been clenching my teeth so hard it hurt. "Something leak in there?" I asked. Greg glanced down. "Protein shake. cap popped. Nate's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. He'd heard the metallic slide too. We drove another 15 miles in a silence that wasn't empty. It was layered, heavy. Greg broke it. There's a turnout up ahead. Mind stopping? I need to make a call. We'll hit the next gas station, Nate replied. Turnout's closer. We'll do the station, I said. Greg's jaw shifted. Sure. We passed the turnout. In the mirror, I saw his eyes narrow just slightly. My ears began to ring. The gas station appeared like a square of harsh light against the darkening sky. 2 pumps, small convenience store. As Nate slowed, Greg leaned forward again. Actually, let's just keep going. We need gas, Nate said. I said we can keep going. The friendliness drained from his voice. My heart hammered so hard against my ribs I could feel it in my throat. My fingers curled into my jeans. We're stopping, Nate said. He pulled in. The engine shut off. The silence felt wrong. You think I'm some kind of problem? Greg asked softly. No, Nate said. I tried to smile. My jaw wouldn't cooperate. Greg leaned forward between the seats. His breath brushed my ear. You nervous? Carla? Number? You ever deal with gunshot wounds? Being a nurse and all? Yes? Messy, huh? His hand slid into the gym bag. My vision blurred at the edges. I could hear my pulse in my ears, a heavy drumbeat. He didn't pull anything out, just rested his hand there. Nate got out to pump gas. The door locks clicked. Greg stayed still behind me. You don't have to be scared, he said. I'm not scared, I replied. The lie scraped my throat. He inhaled deeply like he was savoring the air inside the car. You smell that? He asked quietly. My stomach turned. Number, he chuckled under his breath. When Nate got back in, I saw the question in his eyes. I gave a tiny shake of my head. Not here, not now. We pulled back onto the highway. Night gathered fast. Red and blue lights flickered ahead in the distance. Greg noticed them too. There's sometimes a checkpoint around here, he said. Dewey thing. Nate didn't answer. Might be easier if you just say I'm family, Greg added. Why? I asked. They get weird about strangers. The lights grew brighter as we approached. It wasn't sometimes, it was active. Multiple patrol cars. Officers moving between vehicles. Reflective vests catching headlights. Greg's hand slid back into the bag. The zipper parted further. Metal shifted. My ears rang louder. My chest felt tight, like something was pressing inward from both sides. We rolled forward in line. Just keep it simple, Greg murmured. A female officer approached Nate's window. Evening, she said. Evening. Her flashlight swept across the interior over me, into the back seat. Greg smiled. The beam lingered on the gym bag. Sir, she said calmly, can I see your $499? My wallet's in my truck, Greg replied smoothly. Step out of the vehicle. He hesitated. My hands were shaking now. I pressed them into my thighs to steady them. Greg withdrew his hand from the bag. Empty. He opened the door and stepped out. The gym bag slipped from his lap as he moved. It hit the pavement with a dense, unmistakable weight. The zipper split wider. Under the wash of red and blue lights, I saw the black frame of a handgun. And beside it, a small pink elastic hair tie, stiff and darkened, wrapped around something metallic, a silver wristwatch. The face cracked. Brown stains along the band. Not protein shake, not tools. A child's hair tie. The officer's voice cut sharp. Sir, step away from the bag. Greg froze. Other officers moved in. Nate grabbed my hand. I couldn't feel my fingers. Greg raised his hand slowly. He didn't look panicked. He looked inconvenienced. They cuffed him. Another officer kicked the bag further open with a boot. 2 firearms, a crowbar, gloves. The hair tie clung to the watch like it belonged there. The female officer glanced at us. You're okay, she said. I nodded, but my throat felt too tight to speak. As they guided Greg toward the cruiser, he turned his head. He didn't look like a man who'd been caught. He looked like a man who had simply missed a bus. His expression wasn't rage. It was boredom. He looked at me like I was a witness he'd see again. Then, they put him in the back of the car. An officer told us quietly he matched the description of an armed robbery suspect out of Chico. Family assaulted during a home invasion. Vehicle taken. Family, the word lodged in my chest. We were released after giving statements. When we drove away, the SUV felt contaminated. The smell lingered faintly in the upholstery. Iron and ozone. I pressed my sleeve to my nose, still there. Nate drove in silence. "You knew," I said finally. He didn't pretend to misunderstand. "The alternator," he said. "Yes." I thought maybe I was overthinking it. "You weren't." He exhaled slowly. I didn't want to assume the worst. Politeness. The word felt poisonous. We reached my sister's house late. Porch light on, curtains drawn. When she opened the door, she pulled me into a hug. Then she paused. She pulled back slightly. "Carla," she said softly, "what is that smell?" My stomach dropped. "You smell it too," I whispered. She nodded, eyes flicking to Nate. "It's like metal, burnt metal." I looked down at my clothes. I hadn't touched the bag. I hadn't touched Greg. But the scent clung to me. It had followed us home. That night, lying in the guest room, I stared at the ceiling. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the pink hair tie wrapped around that silver watch. A small, ordinary thing. Something that had belonged to a child. I could still hear the dull thud of the gym bag hitting pavement. Still see Greg's bored expression. Not angry. Not defeated. Just mildly delayed. My jaw ached from hours of clenching. Nurse Carla knew what that smell meant. The second he opened the door. Polite Carla let him in anyway. And somewhere out there, on some other stretch of highway, I imagine another car slowing down. Another hood raised. Another patient man waiting beside a truck that isn't broken at all. We found the blood by accident, and the worst part is that it felt like the woods had been waiting for us to notice. It was an unmarked turnoff somewhere off a state highway in Kansas, the kind of narrow gravel vein you'd miss if you blinked. Marlo was driving, one hand hooked over the steering wheel, the other drumming against the door in time, with whatever pop song was leaking softly from the speakers. We'd been on the road for hours, flat land unspooling around us in every direction. Fallow fields, barbed wire fences, wind bending the grass into long silver strokes. "I swear, there's got to be a bathroom somewhere," she muttered. There was a sign 10 miles back. For a historical marker. I'm not peeing at a statue. The fuel light had come on 20 minutes earlier. The nearest marked rest stop had been closed for renovations, orange cones blocking the entrance like crossed arms. We'd laughed about it then. It felt like the start of a story you'd tell later. Two friends on a road trip, detours and bad coffee and inside jokes. The turnoff appeared without warning. No sign, just a break in the roadside ditch and a path pressed into the grass. Gravel crunching under our tires as Marlo slowed. "Looks like somebody uses it," she said. "Probably hunters." It was late afternoon. The sky had that wide, bleached quality Kansas does so well endless. Exposed. The air outside shimmered with heat when we stepped out. The smell of dry weeds and hot rubber drifting up from the tires. The path led into a small stand of cottonwoods and scrub oak. Their leaves made a papery sound in the breeze, a constant whisper. I remember thinking it was strange how quickly the temperature dropped under the canopy. Shade pooled around us. The light shifted from white to green. 2 minutes, Marlo said, already heading in with her phone flashlight on, even though it wasn't dark. "I'll just over there," I followed, not wanting to be alone with the highway humming behind us. At first, it was just trash. Crumpled beer cans, a stained mattress half sunk into the dirt. Someone had spray, painted a crude smiley face on the trunk of a tree. The ground was churned up in patches, dry soil scuffed into uneven ridges. And then I saw it, a dark, stiffened patch on the side of the mattress, rust-colored, thick at the center, feathering out in irregular sprays. Not paint, not soda. It had soaked through the fabric, crusted along the seams. I didn't say anything right away. My mind tried to label it as something else. Ketchup, engine oil. "Mud, Marlo," I said finally. She turned, distracted. "What?" I pointed. She squinted, took a step closer. The leaves above us shifted, letting in a slice of sun that hit the stain directly. It wasn't just one patch. There were drops on the dirt too, leading away from the mattress in a staggered trail. "Oh," she said softly. The smell reached me then. Faint, metallic, like pennies pressed into your palm. Tell me that's not. I started. She didn't finish the sentence either. We stood there longer than we should have, staring at it as if it might rearrange itself into something harmless. The woods felt smaller. Suddenly, the air thicker. The whispering leaves sounded less like wind and more like breath moving through teeth. It could be from a deer, Marlo said finally. People dump stuff out here. Hunters. Roadkill. On a mattress. She opened her mouth, closed it. The trail of dark droplets led deeper into the trees, weaving between trunks in an uneven line. Some were soaked into the dirt, others smeared as if something heavy had been dragged. A drag mark. That's what I thought. Though I didn't say it. We should go, I said. Yay. Neither of us moved. I don't know what made me look up. Maybe it was instinct, the sense of being measured. The hairs along my arms prickled, not dramatically, not cinematic, just a subtle tightening, like static gathering before a storm. Between two trees about 30 yards away, I saw him. At least I think it was a him. He stood partially obscured by a trunk, body angled away, but head turned toward us. He was tall, taller than anyone I'd ever seen in person. But it wasn't height alone that unsettled me. His arms hung too low. They extended past his hips in a way that felt disproportionate, fingers almost brushing his knees. The forearms seemed elongated, the joints bending at a slightly wrong angle. For a second, I told myself it was perspective. Trees distort distance. Shadows lengthen limbs he didn't move. Marlo, I whispered. What? Don't react. Just look. Slowly, 2 trees over from the one with the broken branch. She inhaled carefully, like she was about to dive underwater. Her gaze shifted. I felt her body stiffen beside me. Do you see him? I asked. Yeah. The word came out flat. He wasn't doing anything overtly threatening. He just watched. His face was too far away to make out clearly, but I could see the pale oval of it against the darker bark. No phone in his hands. No hunting gear. Just stillness. A cicada started buzzing somewhere above us, the sound sharp and mechanical. Hey, Marlo called suddenly, her voice bright in that forced Midwestern, friendly way people use with strangers. You okay? The figure didn't respond. The leaves shifted again, a shimmer of green light. For a heartbeat, I lost sight of him behind the trunk, and then he was gone, not stepping away, not turning, just gone, as if the space had swallowed him. Did he? I started. I don't see him, Marlo said. We scanned the tree line. Nothing. No movement, no snapping twigs. The woods had gone oddly quiet, even the highway noise dampened by the canopy. He could have just walked back, she said, but her voice had thinned. In what direction? There was no clear path, just undergrowth and uneven ground. Let's leave, I said. This time she didn't argue. We backed toward the car rather than turning our backs fully on the trees. I kept expecting to see him again. Between trunks behind us, closer. Every shadow seemed to stretch too far. When we reached the gravel, the open sky felt blinding. Inside the car, the air was stifling. Marlo locked the doors immediately, an unnecessary but comforting click. That was weird, she said, forcing a laugh. Right, just some guy camping or something. With blood, hunters, and the mattress. She didn't answer. We sat there for a moment longer than necessary. I glanced in the side mirror, half expecting to see him standing at the edge of the trees. Nothing. Okay, she said, starting the engine. We're calling it in. To who? Highway Patrol. Or the county sheriff. I'm not just... What if that's a crime scene? The word hung between us. She put the car in reverse. Gravel popped under the tires. As we turned back toward the highway, I saw movement in the rearview mirror. A flicker of something pale between the trees. I twisted in my seat. There he was again. Closer to the edge now. The same elongated arms hanging at his sides. He stood in full view this time. No trunk obscuring him. His shoulders were narrow, almost sloped. His head tilted slightly to one side. Watching us leave, I felt something settle into my stomach then. Not a sharp spike of fear. Something slower. He wasn't chasing. He wasn't waving. He wasn't hiding. He was memorizing. Drive, I said. I am driving. Faster. The tires hit asphalt, and the hum of the highway swallowed the gravel's crunch. I kept looking back until the turnoff disappeared behind a curve in the road. We drove in silence for 5 miles before Marlowe said, "You saw his arms too, right?" "Yes, they were, I know, too long." We reported it at the next gas station, the kind with a single pump and a faded Coca-Cola sign. The clerk looked bored until Marlowe mentioned blood. Then his eyes sharpened. "Off County Road 14, he asked. "There wasn't a sign," I said. He hesitated. "Yay, folks use that spot. Dump stuff, sometimes kids go out there." "There's a man," Marlowe added. "Tall, really tall." The clerk's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'll call it in," he said. "You two should probably head on." As we left, I caught him watching us through the window, phone already pressed to his ear. The rest of the drive felt stretched thin. Every overpass shadow made me flinch. Every car that lingered behind us for more than a minute felt suspicious. We told ourselves we'd done the right thing, that it was probably nothing, that someone would check it out. But that night, in the motel room with its humming air conditioner and scratchy floral bedspread, I couldn't stop replaying the way he stood there. The tilt of his head, the length of his arms, and the certainty that when he looked at us, it hadn't felt like surprise. It had felt like recognition. I didn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., headlights washed briefly across the ceiling through the thin curtains. I held my breath, listening for footsteps outside our door. There were none. Still, I lay there staring at the shadowed corners of the room, certain that if I opened the door and stepped into the parking lot, I'd see him standing at the far edge of the asphalt, arms hanging low, waiting. And the worst part, the part I couldn't admit to Marlowe, was that some small, fractured piece of me believed we hadn't stumbled onto something random at all. It felt like we had interrupted something, and it knew, our faces now,